Hello again. In this particular module, we will be talking about how you establish a positive climate and active supervision. Just as a review, the allocated time is how much time you are given to teach certain subjects. Then we have the instructional time, which is a little bit smaller than the allocated time because there will be a variety of distractions. Maybe bell schedules, transition times, passing out papers, all of those kinds of things. Then there is the engaged time, and our goal is always to increase the amount of engaged instructional time. Students have a variety of different levels of engagement, and no student will stay at high engagement all the time, but that is our goal, and we want to maximize the amount of time that the students are involved in high engagement in order to maximize their student success. This is just another view of that. The instructional time is increased by having effective classroom management, clear expectations, routines, and procedures that have been explicitly taught, practiced, and reinforced. So good classroom management is based on the behavior of the teachers, what the teachers say and do, not the behavior of the students. The teacher is the center of the classroom, the most important person in the classroom. You can only control yourself. You can't control the students. So what you need to do is set up your behaviors in a way that maximizes that instructional time, that engaged instructional time. The little phrase that we use to reinforce this is failing to plan is planning to fail. And that's not what we're all about. So far, you have already identified the behavioral expectations. You've created a classroom management plan, and you have taught expectations, explicitly taught the expectations that you want to see. Now what we're going to do is talk about how you establish a positive climate and how you go about having active supervision. So as you remember, we teach the procedures, and then we have the students practice those, and we provide prompts so that eventually the students can do these procedures without any prompting or supervision, that they have become routines. And that is going to maximize the amount of time that's available for your instruction. So the classroom climate is based on what is the tone and feel of the classroom. You are the person that sets the tone. And our goal is to have a positive classroom climate. You want to have an energetic feel where the students are actively participating. You want to have respectful interactions between students and between the students and the teachers. You want the teachers to treat each other kindly and treat the students kindly and with patience. And you want to have teachers who have taught and modeled clear expectations. That's how you're going to develop a positive classroom climate. Now, there are a variety of things that impact that classroom climate. One of the things we'll talk about is considering your own strengths and weaknesses. You want to model polite, respectful, and friendly behaviors. You want to consider not only your verbal language, but also your nonverbal language. You want to be positive and proactive, not reactive. And you need to be consistent. so that the students know what to expect. So one thing to consider would be, what are your strengths and weaknesses as they relate to the classroom climate? Characteristics that would be seen as strengths include being energetic about what it is you're teaching, including real-world applications in your instruction, having a sense of humor, and having a desire to engage and get to know your students. Characteristics that would be viewed as weaknesses include sarcasm, not having a poker face, or not having taught the expectations for the classroom. So think honestly about yourself and your teaching style. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? We all have both, and what we need to do is focus on our strengths to overcome our weaknesses. Here is a classroom climate checklist. This is meant as a self-evaluation. It is not something you would hand in, but it would be things for you to think about with regards to your students and how you're interacting, what type of a climate you're creating in your classroom. There's another copy of this checklist that will be provided with you later in the module for you to complete. Also, we need to talk about active supervision. In order to prevent student misbehavior, teachers must actively supervise their students. Each of these situations required what is called active supervision. Active supervision includes things like moving about in the classroom, scanning the classroom, escorting students or the class from one area to another, making sure that they are always supervised, interacting with your students, getting to know them. One form of active supervision is proximity. That is moving closer to a student who might be off task or appears to be having difficulty staying focused. Proximity can be an effective means of prompting the student to engage in appropriate behavior rather than a non-desired one. And frequently you don't have to say a word. Just simply moving over close to them will be enough of a prompt for them to correct their behavior. One of the things you want to do is make sure that when you're using proximity, it's non-threatening. Um, this comes in part by knowing your students. There are some students who have some behavioral issues that might be set off or escalated by close proximity of the teacher. And if that's the case, that would not be an appropriate strategy to use for that particular student. But for the majority of the students, proximity can be very, very effective. It is seen to be a good behavior, not a punishment. It can be quick, an efficient way to remind a student to stay on task. Scanning is looking around the classroom at what is going on, and frequently you have the teacher look. You can simply look at the students, and that will be enough to help them refocus and remind them that they need to stay on task. So as you think about active supervision, consider the instructional time in the classroom, any of the major transitions that need to happen, recess, special events. You want to use active supervision in conjunction with pre-corrections, which would be verbal reminders or prompts, modeling of the appropriate behaviors that is delivered prior to the occurrence of the problem behavior. You want to teach the expectations before you start seeing the behaviors. And sometimes you can just use a simple prompt such as, students, remember that we keep our hands to ourselves and walk quietly on our way to lunch. And that way you're not using punishment at all. You are just reminding the students exactly of what it is you want them to do, as opposed to saying something like, I expect you all to behave. This is clearly stating what it is you're looking for. Just remember that you can only control yourself and your behavior, and your behavior will impact the student's behavior and ultimately your classroom management and climate. You have the tools to maximize engaged instructional time by minimizing classroom management issues through proactive practices, by teaching the expectations. Thank you very much.